big fat hike.
Day 2, section 4.
Okay, here we are at our campsite. When we got here, it was pretty warm. Now it's cold. It's like 40, and it's going to be 40 and like low 70s, upper 60s, and into the 40s overnight, every night. So I didn't bring pants. She didn't bring anything for cold weather. I mistakenly brought this. I was kicking myself for it. I'm like, oh man, I brought this flannel. I'm not going to need it. Well, I need it now. And I brought my 3/4 length quilt thinking, oh, well, it's going to be hot, so I don't want to have my full length quilt because of the heat. I froze all night last night because the wind pushed this cold in, and we never put our tarps up, so it was just blowing underneath my underquilt the whole night. And wow, I got up at 2:30 freezing. I threw my rain jacket on to try to help, but that did very little for my back. But yeah, now we got to hike up the Wayabald, whatever it's called, and we had a little issue. Somebody came in last night and camped on the other side of the trail from us, and they hung their bear bag above us and then got it tangled in ours on the way down today. So we had to untangle that, and luckily we were able to get it untangled. It was a tangly mess, but we got it down, and I got her, I was able to save her paracord, and everything worked out fine. But that could have been the end of our trip right there if we couldn't have got our food down. But yeah, we're making our way. Hopefully we're going to do 8 miles today, maybe more. It all depends. We'll have to see how we feel. So you'll see more later.
So this is our hike out of camp and up to Wine Spring. And this leads us to Wayabald, which we were not far from. What's that? Bartram?
Yeah, this is where the Bartram Trail intersects with the Appalachian Trail.
So you can see right there, it was 1.6 to Wayabald. We were really close. We were thinking about possibly hiking up to Wayabald, but we just didn't know what sort of camping there was going to be up there. So we were just like, I think that was actually Wine Spring that we just passed in the video.
Yep.
And there was camping up on Wayabald, but I think it would have been even worse for us if we would have camped up there because it was so exposed and so open.
There were no trees up there,
Right.
So we wouldn't have been able to hang our hammocks. I mean, we probably could have hung our hammocks in the fire tower, but you're not really supposed to do that.
And that would have magnified the windiness like by tenfold. Because there we definitely could have put up tarps. We would have just had to endure it. Did we get water from there? We got water from there, didn't we?
I don't know.
I can see us talking about it. We got water from there. Yep. We may not have filled it. We may have just cameled up and filled our bottles before we made our way up. But I'm pretty sure we got water there. Because that was the spring at Wine Spring Camp and Spring. That's one of those rare cases where you go to a campsite and there's actually a spring right off the trail.
Except for at Cold Spring, and then it's literally the same thing.
Yeah. And I say that's rare, but it actually happens more often than not. Sorry if Luther's making a whole bunch of noise and covering everything up. Luther!
Oh, no, he's bored.
The climb to Wayabald wasn't bad. We'd made most of our elevation up from where we talked to Maria. I can't remember what the name of that gap was.
Okay, we're starting our ascent to Wayabald. It's only going to be 377 feet. So, but it looks like it's going to be a little steep. A little-ish. Maybe. Roots and rocks, roots and rocks. That's not too bad. I see some steps in our future.
We never got anybody's trail names for some unknown reason. Maria kind of let her old trail name slip, but she didn't want to keep using it. She wants a new trail name, so.
I didn't hear it.
I don't even remember it now, but we're kind of we're not through hikers, so we don't have trail names, and we kind of believe that we're of the mindset you have to earn it. I don't know. Obviously, that's not the case, but we're kind of that's the way we believe it should be. Like, if you're gonna do that, it should be earned. Like, I always feel like somebody else should give you your name. You shouldn't pick a name for yourself.
I mean, I don't care. I don't care. I mean, there's no rules that say you can't pick your. When people ask that, can you pick your own trail name? Of course you can. But, I mean, for me, it's just like, why? It's more something that people did on trail, to remember somebody. And usually it was because of a certain thing that reminded them of you, and that's how you got your name. So to me, it's like, I would want someone else to give me a name if I was going to have a trail name. Not that they would have to, because I don't care if I have one or not, but I just think it's kind of more natural that way.
Yeah.
I hear the road.
Commemorates an event.
Yeah.
Like, you'll remember who gave you your trail name or where you got your trail name from based on the experience that led up to it.
Yeah, there's usually a story behind it.
Right.
Not just, oh, I'm, the professor because I want that to be my name.
Right. So we just go by our regular names. And I would say that there is sort of like, I know I feel that Soraya has this sort of stigma about us being section hikers versus through hikers. Like, there's a disconnect between us, and like, I don't know, like they're on a hierarchy of value scale or whatever, they're higher up. And
I don't think that. We're just not through hiking.
Right. But through hikers do have their own, they're kind of like their own little union, and that's fine. Because they spend a lot of time, hiking amongst each other. They're more familiar with one another. So it's kind of like you came to a party where everybody else knows each other, and you're just someone who's theirs friend, and you're just meeting these people for the first time. That's kind of the way it feels when you're a section hiker hiking amidst through hikers. But they've all been amicable and open and conversed with us. I don't think anybody really gave us the cold shoulder. I mean, I could argue that in some cases, but mostly it just felt like it always feels open, and people are wanting to talk. But it is weird because I felt like people wanted to talk more when we first started the trail versus where we are in North Carolina now.
I think at this point, because we were out with kind of a bubble of people, I think people assumed we were hiking. And I think that it kind of threw people off a little bit when we told them that we were just section hiking. And I think it threw them off even more when we explained, yes, we have hiked from Springer Mountain all the way to this point. We've just done it as section hikes, not a through hike. Because we've experienced everything they've experienced. We've just done it as section hikers, not as through hikers. So it's kind of weird because we can talk about places on the trail, but to them it's just kind of, it's different because they're doing it all at once. So here we're finally up to Wyabald.
Here we are at Wyabald, going to the bathroom. And then we'll make our way to the lookout tower thing at the other side and get some more footage from there. What?
Sorry, I didn't know I was running video.
That's video. All the things. I feel like I'd be rolling the dice getting a different one.
If you are planning to hike this, the Appalachian Trail goes up past Wyabald Tower. So if you're looking for your blaze, it's going to go past it.
Yeah, there was some speculation about that.
I could see the blaze from the tower when I went up, so it was kind of easier for me to tell somebody because they couldn't see where the blaze went, but I could because I was up high.
Yeah.
So I yelled down to him.
It's gateway to hell there.
That's the
got good echo.
fire tower.
Hello.
And we talked a little bit about a place called Harney Peak. That's in South Dakota in the Black Hills. That's a place we went a couple of years ago on vacation. And it's got this fire tower at the top of this like mountain range, and it's about well, I don't want to say it's 7 miles up. It's like 4 miles up. And
More than 4 miles.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't say it was.
I'd say 4.5.
But it was, I mean, the whole round trip was like 7-8 miles. So it wasn't like, it was just extremely steep toward the end. But it reminded us a lot of this, except for Harney Peak felt like it was way like steeper than this. Like there wasn't as much spread out area around it. It's like it went up to like a actual peak. And you could see the fire tower clearly from like 7 miles away. Which made it interesting to hike to because you could see it as you were coming up to it. This, we couldn't see it until we were like right up on it.
Okay. We just came down from Wyabald, and we're still making a descent down to Way Shelter. I don't know why we didn't upload photos while we were at Wyabald. That was kind of dumb. Because that was the one guaranteed place we were going to be able to do it. Oh well. I may stop at the shelter if it's on the trail and fix myself my stuff. Huh? No. What's it called? Ramen. I hear a lot of water. Oh, there's the shelter. There's another privy. So we are at Way Shelter. I'm thinking about stopping and cooking there. Some ramen. I'm not even thinking about it. I think I'm I keep saying that. I'm going to do it. But I don't know where the water would be. I guess it is a way.
Somebody's tracking through there.
Probably somebody trucking through. We can go down to where campsites are. Whee! This kind of reminds me of like what it must be like after a battle. When you come to a wooded area and it's just like kind of cleared out. Although battle, I'm sure there'd be like no trees left. But just the human presence.
Somebody in there. Was that just a swamp or was that a swamp?
I haven't decided yet.
Because I don't know.
I know. That's why I was like, I don't know if I should do this because then we're just going to have to stop again for lunch. But I was like, man, I'm really hungry. I think I'm going to eat. But now, well, obviously I'm not hungry now, but we can stop again when you're ready. I don't care. I mean, I just don't think I'm going to eat is the thing.
Yeah.
But you have, here's what I'm going to do. All the rest of the crap that you brought.
But it's crazy. This is kind of the way it is, like when you're out here, though. You know, everyone has a different pace that they go, and a lot of people, like we hiked pretty slow, and it's a guarantee. It's absolutely a fact that everybody's hiking faster than us. But we all kind of still stayed around each other because it all depends on like when you get a start, where you stop at the end of the night, and all of that. And everybody just kind of, you know, leapfrogs each other throughout the day. So you kind of do stay around a group of people as long as you're, you know, in a similar range of movement. You can stay around people for quite a while. And that's just in our limited experience section hiking. But I think this is the first time that we've ever been around through hikers where we've actually kept pace with them for a while.
Yeah.
And talked with them. The last time we went out, it was pretty much all section hikers that we were out with.
The only through hikers we ran into last time were people finishing their through hikes. So they were actually coming the opposite direction. So they were going southbound. So we didn't stay around them because we only seen them in passing and then we didn't see them again. But now we were going both northbound with the through hikers. So we were kind of going the same distance, similar pace.
Right. And we kind of had that experience our first section hike, but I don't really remember talking to a lot of people.
No.
Like we passed by the guy we called Yoshi. That wasn't his name, but we just called him that. And we were kind of doing the same leapfrog thing with him. Well, kind of. We saw him day one, and then we saw him at the very last, the third day. But we didn't really leapfrog a lot of other people. We talked to a couple of people, but we weren't really part of any real group. And the second section hike, I couldn't really tell you much about that. I think I've blocked that out of my mind for the most part. I had such a miserable time. I really feel like I blocked all that out. If memory serves, I think there was like, oh, here we are, water camp. This is where I start my little journey. I can't remember, where was this?
Licklog Gap.
Licklog Gap. There's a camp there, and then there's water that you can go down to. This is the trek down to get water. I taped the entire thing. I think it took me 3 or 4 minutes to hike down there. It's not super steep, but it's probably a fourth of a mile to get down there. I mean, you'll see it all right here.
This is why if you see water on trail, camel up.
Yeah.
Get water while you're on trail, because the last thing you want to do is hike an extra fourth of a mile down and an extra fourth of a mile back up,
Right.
just to take down to get water.
Because that's the one thing. It's like it's okay to hike down this, to try to find water. But then once you've got your water and you have to climb back up, it's like especially if you got a bunch of miles still to do, it's like, man, why add all that elevation and those miles to your trip?
I mean, the only good thing about this was he was able to drop his pack before going.
Right.
So he was doing it without a pack, and that's what I would always suggest. If you're going to have to get off trail to get water, drop your pack and go down without it and just take what you need to get your water.
Yeah, there's no sense in carrying all that extra weight just to go down to get water. And you can leave it if you're even solo hiking, you can leave it there and go do it. No one's going to run off with your stuff. I mean, that's just...
I mean, I'm sure there's a possibility that somebody could come take something from your pack, but almost always, if you're out on trail, nobody's going to mess with your stuff because nobody wants to carry any extra weight than they have to.
Right. But there's also like, you can't say for sure. That's absolutely true, but
I mean, I wouldn't leave behind my fanny pack with my money
Right.
and stuff in it, but I mean, I would not have any hesitation leaving my pack.
But
with the rest of my
hikers
stuff.
don't tend to really mess with other people's stuff. It might as well be invisible. Like when you go to a shelter and other people are there, like I don't even notice other people's packs and other people's stuff. It's just like you're mostly focused on your own stuff and you're just kind of trying to keep out of everyone's way, make sure everyone else has space and have some conversations while you relax. You're not really like looking at other people's stuff and getting curious. Like the idea that somebody else would paw through someone else's stuff would blow my mind. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but
Yeah, and I have heard that it has happened, but I'm just saying, like, out on trail, I mean, if somebody is going to go through that stuff, they're going through it looking probably for money.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say, if you are on trail, if you drop your pack, take your money, take your ID, take that stuff with you, but nothing else. People are generally going to leave it alone because nobody wants to carry, like I said, nobody wants to carry extra gear.
But this is the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go any further. But I realize there's an area coming up where I cross like between this cutout log, and I'm like, oh well, it's pretty close now because I could actually start to hear it. And yeah, it's right here. And it's like, it's not too much farther into here. It's like, I go in and then it's like, it's kind of a little bit of a steep down to get to where the water was, but yeah, it wasn't far after this at all. But it's like, I just kept going because I'm like, well, it can't be much farther. It can't be much farther. It can't be much farther. And it ends up being kind of far. Which, like I said, downhill, not too bad. Uphill, But at least it wasn't like most water sources where it's like third of a mile almost straight down. Those avoid at all costs because that's just going to wreck you. Like here it is. I also got really weirded out because I'm out here about a fourth of a mile away from camp and Soraya and everybody else. And I start hearing rustling and all that brush, and I'm like, "Oh boy, this is all I need is a bear to like just jump out." Because that's always my fear. It's like you separate yourself from a group, and that's what bears or predators kind of wait for.
So on this trip, we did something a little bit different. We took a little bit longer breaks. John cooked his lunches instead of just doing cold lunches like we normally do. And one day I did do a hot lunch, and I think we've both kind of come to realize that that's really nice to do it that way.
Yeah.
It kind of forces you to take a little bit longer than you would normally sit and just quickly eat something. Because as tired as you get on trails, sometimes you have a hard time sitting still. And I don't know if that's just your worry and trying to get to camp on time and stuff like that, but it is nice to have a reason to stick around a little bit longer to linger and have lunch and let it digest before taking off.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, I feel like I picked that idea up from our last section hike when we were hiking with those 3 guys, because they were eating like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They were stopping constantly and eating, and I'm like, man, that's got to take forever. But it was great for them. They were just like, they had no complaints whatsoever because they hiked lightly fast, but we were always kind of in the same general vicinity because of all the breaks they took. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like a bad idea, just, taking longer breaks and really, relaxing. Because before, like what Sarai was kind of saying, when you're just eating like beef jerky and just little snacks and things like that, it's too easy to just like sit down on the ground, have a few snacks, and be like, all right, let's just get back to it. Because it's kind of uncomfortable. You're not really doing anything, and you're still kind of amped from the walk. You kind of still want to stay in motion. So, but cooking, it literally takes you out of that. You have to kind of reset your mind and recalibrate it to doing something else, and it gives you that opportunity to really take a true lengthy break. And I really enjoyed it this time, and I'm going to keep doing it going forward. AT or elsewhere. I don't know where this is. It's probably just a view. Now we're making our way, where are we? Because Westerwald was day 3, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't remember what else we did in day 2. Oh, Tellico Gap. No, Tellico Gap was the beginning of day 3.
Yeah,
So
we had to climb out of Tellico Gap.
Right. Well, we
So
climbed down.
this was on our way up to Cold Springs,
Yeah.
which is where we planned on camping originally. We were thinking about staying around Cold Springs, but we ended up just kind of going back and forth on how far we wanted to walk that last day, and I was really adamant about wanting to push on a little further, even though I was tired. I felt like I had more in me, and I would rather push a little extra when I know I have it in me than hope I have it in me the next day to go the extra miles.
Which is funny because it's the exact opposite of the way it normally is, where I wanted to stay at Cold Spring and Sarai wanted to push on. Every time before, it was always me saying, let's keep pushing, let's get more miles in, and Sarai wanting to stop early. So that was kind of unique. But we were like, because we were like, if we don't push on, we're going to have an 11-mile day or 11.5-mile day, day 3. If we just push a little bit further, we can kind of balance that out to 2 9s, which is what we end up doing.
Trickle though.
It's in front of you.
You need water?
Nope. I think there's one more on the climb up that we can hit if we want to bag up before we get to camp. Ooh.
But boy, it was Nat City.
Yeah.
We intentionally went on our hammocks and laid for a little bit. I think Sarai fell asleep. We were waiting for the gnats to disperse, for it to get a little dark, and for there to be less gnats, but it just never happened. So many gnats on this trip.
Yeah, I mean, once it started getting dark and a little cooler, they did disperse. They weren't quite as thick as they were in the heat of the day, but it was pretty miserable having them pester you. I mean, and they were biting. It was just kind of annoying.
It's really hard to enjoy your meal when you have all these bugs buzzing around your head. And I think that's where I realized I was like swatting at him and I was clapping the air and trying to kill him, and I realized my food wasn't sealed. So I was like, oh great, all these gnats are done. I'm clapping at them and killing them, and they're all falling in my meal. I'll be eating gnats. Which I probably did. I probably ate several of them. Like, there's not much you can do. Oh, this is still the climb up to Rocky Bald. Because we camped right where Rocky Bald deviates off, and you like off the trail, and you go up to Rocky Bald. We were like probably a couple 100 feet away from that. Is where we camped. I think we were getting a little, because we knew if we went down to Tellico Gap, we were kind of screwed. And we wouldn't find it. Then we'd have to climb out of Tellico Gap to find a place. So we were like, we gotta find a place before we start making our descent to Tellico. So we started getting really close to Rocky Bald, which is the very top. And it's like, we gotta find a place. So we really started doubling down our efforts to find a suitable spot to throw up. And we found the perfect spot. I mean, as close to the perfect spot as you could possibly get, that close to the top for hammocks. But that's the one thing, and Sarai and I talked about that, because I was talking about how it'd be nice to try to talk more people into hammocking, but if more people hammock, you don't have access to as many spots as you did before, because you're going to come up to spots like that, and there's going to be a hammock there, and there's going to be a hammock here, a hammock there, and everywhere you go, there's going to be another hammock.
The plan initially was to camp at Cold Spring Shelter, but since there's nowhere to really camp, we decided to push on. Little did we know that there's a campground just a few paces ahead. I thought it was 0.2 miles, but that's the gap. And that, where it shows camping, was where I thought the campground was. So I was wrong, giving people false information. That sucks. But anyway, we're pushing on, and I think we're pushing on beyond that too. We may be pushing on to Tellico. I don't know. We're gonna feel it out and see. Boy, that's a lot of chopped up trees.
Burningtown Gap, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That was, the climb out of Burningtown Gap was like, it was just, we were stopping probably every 50 feet and taking breaks in shade when we could find it. It was just, it was hard to get your breath, catch your breath. It was hard to like, just keep going because of the heat.
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point where every time there was a tree, I would stop in the shade of the tree.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the leaves, I mean like in the shade of the trunk of the tree. Just because you were trying to get anything you could get.
But I think, you know what? I don't know, I don't think we got that on camera. That's where I got water, because I was kicking myself, because I didn't realize that Cold Spring had a spring right next to the shelter.
Yeah.
So I carried water all the way up there.
Yeah.
From Burningtown Gap. And I was like, man, all this extra weight that I'm carrying, because right now I'm carrying 4 liters of water. And it was like, that just was insult to injury at that point.
Yeah, I'm fine.
But that's the thing. Like I didn't want to take the chance because I knew once we got up that high, we were gonna have to camp. And if we couldn't have access to water, we were gonna have to go the rest of the night with whatever we had. And I just wanted to make sure we had enough to cook with and to get down to Tellico Gap. 'Cause we weren't gonna see water until we started our way back up Tellico Gap. And it's always iffy, you know, when you're up, kind of going up, whether or not the springs are gonna be active, what you're gonna get. But the springs on this trip were all active. I don't think we ever came across one that was listed that wasn't flowing. So it was a good time of year for that to go. Not so good for the boats. But that's day 3 where I had a fun experience at a water source. This is
Something's on fire.
oh.
This is just a little fuse pot off to the side.
Yeah, this was just a view. Because I was thinking this might have been one of the places we were trying to look at to set up camp. You can still see all
No,
those
we
mats.
hadn't even gotten to Cold Springs yet.
Right. That's where we saw the thing on fire.
If it's intentional.
Oh, we're already past Cold Spring at this point.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Because that was
So you must have not taken any video there.
that may have been before Cold Spring, but this is definitely after Cold Spring. This is the last clip of day 2. I didn't get anything at camp. Yeah, but we'd already been at Cold Spring, so I didn't get anything at the shelter. But there were already people there. You know, it's like, and that's another one of those things where it's like, I don't want to take people without their, consent. I don't want to just pop up a camera and start taping around people. It just, I feel like it makes people uncomfortable. And I don't like, they've got enough on their plate. They don't need, a bunch of people taping them to add to that. So, yeah, I didn't even tape that camp.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's the end of day 2. It's just, the reason why I didn't tape a lot at camp is because of the bugs. I mean, it's just flat out, it was the gnats. Also, another reason why I didn't tape at camp is because I didn't bring the clamp for my phone. I really was wanting to do that this trip. I was going to put it on my trekking pole and just stick it in the ground and just kind of set up the camera like I have it now to where you could see the both of us and then we could just kind of walk around camp and do whatever. But I just didn't want to carry that extra weight. So I ended up not taking it. I left it at home. And then I realized, like, man, I really wish I would have brought it. But at the same time, with all those gnats, you aren't going to see much anyway. Because we were usually getting it. If we weren't cooking, we were in our hammocks trying to avoid the gnats. So, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to see anyway. So that's the end of day 2. Hope you enjoyed it. We got one more day for section hike 4. And that's coming up next if you actually watch it. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.